Welcome into Seahawks Today. I am your host, Will Ortner, and we got a bevy of trade rumors floating around. These ones are from Dianna Russini of The Athletic, and we have to talk about a potential reunion that could be going on in Seattle. But before we get into any of that, I want to make sure that you know just how close we are on the road to 75K subscribers right now. We are right at that 73,900 mark. That means we're 1,100 subscribers away from our ultimate goal of 75K by the end of October. I think that we can get there, but I need your help. Share the channel with your friends who love the Seattle Seahawks who have not had an opportunity to subscribe. Make sure that they know they're going to get free daily Seattle Seahawks content that they're not going to want to miss out on. Just like today's episode, The Athletic, most of these articles are behind a paywall. We pay for it. We give it back to you guys for free. So make sure you subscribe to the channel. Now, the first story that I want to talk about is a potential reunion opportunity for the Seahawks and eventual Seattle Seahawks Hall of Famer wide receiver Tyler Lockett, because Tyler Lockett went to the Tennessee Titans and he asked for his release from the ball club. They're not really using him, and this is what Adam Schefter had to say over at ESPN. Veteran wide receiver Tyler Lockett has asked for and received his release from the Tennessee Titans. He's going to be free to sign with another team at 4 p.m. Eastern time on Wednesday. Of course, as soon as that news breaks, you start looking around, and I see on Seahawks Twitter, I want Tyler Lockett back. I want Tyler Lockett back. I want Tyler Lockett back. And then a couple people come into my DMs and say, Will, I want Tyler Lockett back. Do you? So I thought about it and I said, well, if Seattle was to bring Tyler Lockett back to Seattle, what would he bring to this ball club? Is he a player that can still add value, not just from a nostalgia standpoint, but from a production on the field? As we look at his last 4 seasons, obviously the 24 through 22, those are in Seattle. He had over 1,000 yards in 22, but we've seen a steady decline of about 200 yards every single year from Lockett. Last year was obviously one of his lowest reception years. You're also starting to see a lot of those red zone targets go away, not getting touchdowns in the end zone. And frankly, in a Tennessee Titans team that is just begging for receiver help, for their number 1 overall QB draft pick, Cam Ward, Lockett only had 10 receptions, only had 70 yards. Not a great output for Lockett. Then I had to go through and say, well, is that just because the Tennessee Titans suck? I mean, they already got rid of their head coach. How good can the program really be? Well, how would he fit in Seattle? Who would he replace? As you go through the depth chart and you start to kind of look through your wide receiver one, well, of course, he's not going to replace Jackson Smith-Njigba. That would be silly. There's no one in the NFL that can replace Jackson Smith-Njigba right now. Would he replace Cooper Kupp? No. In fact, I actually think that Cooper Kupp replaced him. He is that receiver that is coming in just to be a possession guy, a guy that you're not looking for big plays from, but you're looking from normal plays from. You're looking from important third down conversion catches. Would Lockett replace Torrey Horton? Yeah, if this is Tyler Lockett when he was a rookie and he was fast. That's not that guy anymore. Torrey Horton is Tyler Lockett from 10 years ago. Okay, well, he wouldn't replace him. Well, he'd have to replace Jake Bobo, of course, the backup wide receiver behind Jackson Smith-Njigba. No, because Jake Bobo blocks better than him. I'd say right now would be a more integral part to a team that wants to run the football more. And I'd also say that he does more on special teams. Tariq Young, same thing. Cody White, a guy who's been bouncing back and forth between the practice squad and the active roster. Same deal, man. So I look through that, and unfortunately, I don't see a spot for Tyler Lockett. Of course I want Tyler Lockett here. If there was unlimited space and this was a college roster, I'd bring Tyler Lockett back in a heartbeat, man. I'd want to sign him to the team. I don't like how it ended. I love Tyler Lockett. He was an important part of a lot of my early Seattle Seahawks rooting interest, a lot of my middle school and high school, college years. Right now, football's a business. Tyler Lockett isn't that guy anymore. That's my honest opinion. I want to hear your honest opinion. Do you want the Seattle Seahawks to sign Tyler Lockett? Let me know down below in the comments section. I think I've been pretty darn clear how I feel. Let me know how you feel. I go through and I read the comments. I'll try and respond back to those who want to have a good time having a conversation with me. I mentioned early in the intro that there was a second part of today's show, and that, of course, is The Athletic's Dianna Russini. She released an article on the latest trade buzz going around the NFL, what she was hearing, what players might be on the trading block, what players or teams were receiving calls for different position groups. And as I read through the article, I started to realize Diana's talking about a couple of players that could be a halfway decent fit in Seattle. Who are those three players going to be? Well, I'll tell you after I tell you about the proud sponsor of today's video, and that is Prize Picks. You and I make decisions every single day, but on Prize Picks, being right can get you paid. Don't miss any of the excitement this season on Prize Picks, where it's good to be right. Prize Picks is simple to play. Just pick more or less on any 2 to 6 player stat projections, and if your picks are right, you could cash in. Prize Picks invented the flex play, which means you can still cash out if your lineup isn't perfect. You can double your money even if one of your picks does not hit. Prize Picks is the best way to win cash this football season. Which players are going off, which ones are overhyped. Make your picks in less than 60 seconds and turn your takes into cash all season long on Prize Picks. I already have a 3-pick power play for this weekend. Jamar Chase more than his receiving yards. Bijan Robinson more than his rushing and receiving TDs. Jonathan Taylor more than his rushing and receiving TDs as well. Download the app today and use code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks. It's good to be right. One of the players that was listed in Russini's article is defensive end, or I guess I should say outside edge rusher, Bradley Chubb. Right now, the Dolphins are a freaking mess. I don't know if you saw their last game against the Cleveland Browns. I don't know why you would watch it. Nobody else was doing so unless they like to torture themselves. But the Cleveland Browns just opened up a can of you-know-what on the Miami Dolphins. And at this point, I think it's a fire sale. Anybody is available. Now, we look at Bradley Chubb's last 4 seasons. Obviously, 2024 stands out. He's recovering from a knee injury, unable to go. A lot of people were questioning, will he be able to return in 2025 and be the player that he used to be in 2023? Getting 11 sacks, bunch of tackles in the backfield for a loss, bunch of solo tackles. So far, he's really lived up to that. Right now in Seattle, he would actually be tied for second place on your team in sack total, and he'd only be 1 sack behind Uchenna Nwosu for that number 1 spot. I think that Bradley Chubb, in the right situation, for the right price, would be a great addition to your Seattle Seahawks. I think that he is a player, if available, and if the Miami Dolphins really do want to blow it up and start all the way from scratch, if you could bring him in, and you're telling me I can have Bradley Chubb next to DeMarcus Lawrence, next to Jaron Reed, next to Byron Murphy, next to Leonard Williams, next to Uchenna Nwosu, Derek Hall, Boye Mafe, the list goes on and on and on. You got a scary defensive line that's already in the 20s in their sack total that gets scarier and scarier and scarier. Here's the funny part about that article that Russini just dropped. Jaelan Phillips, the opposite edge, the opposite side of that Miami Dolphins defensive front 7, he's on the trade market as well. Phillips could be another trade target for Seattle if, let's say, the Dolphins want to keep Chubb, or let's say that the Chubb offer just isn't good enough. Maybe the Chubb offer doesn't get you excited, and you want to take a closer look over at Phillips. Here's his last 4 years. Obviously, he has a down year in 2024. Why? Well, because there were some injury issues. Injury issues as well in 2023. Isn't able to have a full and complete season. Right now, I mean, shoot, if he plays next week for the Miami Dolphins, Phillips is going to have just as many games played in 23, and he's already ahead of 24. So will he be able to stay healthy? What impresses me right now is he's still getting after the quarterback. He's still relatively young. He's still a player that can grow back into being that 6.5 sack guy, 28 solo tackles guy, 15 assist tackles guy. There's still room for that. And I feel like so far in the 2025 season, Phillips has showed that. The last guy that I want to look at, Jermaine Johnson over in New York. I would love to stand up here and not outright bash a team. Can't do it with the Jets. They suck. They're really bad at football. I would hope that they win a game. I don't know that they will. Probably they'll dumb into it, but right now it's atrocious. Are they willing to move on from Jermaine Johnson? Is that a player that they think would not fit into their program long term? Now let's look at his last 4 seasons. Obviously, he's missed some time this year with some injuries, 2024 obviously as well. But you can go in and you look at that 2023 season. That is a player that is growing strong. Remember, he comes into the year in 2020, or comes into his career in 2022. So that's his rookie year. Then you look at 2023, there's clear growth there. Now, he gets hurt in 2024, so you don't really get the chance to see what he can be. But again, this is a player that if he stays healthy, man, I like the opportunities of what he could be. And if he's coming into Seattle, you're not asking him to have the hopes and dreams of the franchise. He's going to be surrounded by other players who are doing a great job of getting to the quarterback right now. It might help booster up some of his confidence. He might be a player that we see like Derek Hall, where he comes in and, hey, man, we just need you to perform in spots. The numbers aren't going to be there, but in key critical moments, you're going to come up big for us. And I think Jermaine Johnson can fill that role. I want this clear. I like all 3 players. I think that Phillips, Johnson, and Chubb, they would get me excited if you got one of those guys coming into Seattle. I think that if you got any of these 3 into the Seahawks defense, they would perform better than they have been at the places that they're playing right now. And frankly, I don't think that they've been horrible. You see the potential of all 3 guys. They'd be a great fit in Seattle. But just like any other trade, the price has to be right. It's clear that these teams are shopping these players, but they haven't fully gone in yet and said, we have to get rid of them. We're selling them for pennies on the dollar. If you can get one of those 3 edge rushers, especially Chubb, at pennies on the dollar, watch out. You're taking a Seahawks front 7 that was already scary, that was the most important part or most impressive part of your defense, and making them even stronger. Ooh, boy, watch out. Because that's all this defense is missing. You're just missing an elite pass rusher. You have a lot of really good pass rushers. You don't have that crazy elite one. Maybe one of those 3 guys can turn into that. Thank you so much for watching today's video. Make sure that you subscribe. I want to get to 75K by the end of October. That means that we have just about 10 days. 10 days to get there. Help me out. Subscribe to the channel. If you have a friend who bleeds blue and green, send this over their way so they can subscribe to the channel as well. And until next time, I'll see you later.